So before we start off with this video, you'd probably find after watching it that I didn't really talk that much about Navdeep Saini. And that's because I was kind of talking about the other people that I forgot to. So Navdeep Saini has been brilliant. I think he's prospered all round as a bowler, whether it be at the start of the innings, the middle overs and at the death. And I feel that Virat Kohli has more confidence in asking Navdeep Saini to bowl to death than Isuru Udana. And Isuru Udana was actually brought into the team as a specialist death bowler. Not that Udana's a bad bowler. You'd kind of see me criticising the recruitment of RCB a bit, not through individual players, but the fact that with the people that they did buy, in buying Udana, especially if they played in India, I just, apart from a few games, maybe against, at Delhi, at Rajasthan, maybe at Hyderabad, at Chennai, so maximum 4 games you could have really got a game. And that's what I was alluding to. But, he's a good bowler. He's a death over specialist, as I said. And yeah, I just wanted to cover the fact that 1, Navdeep Saini has been brilliant, and 2, I wasn't criticising the player, I was criticising the recruitment. So, yeah. Thank you for watching, a huge thank you for watching, and enjoy the video. So the IPL has reached its halfway mark, and each team has played 7 games. And so, at this point, I'll be posting a series of videos reviewing each team's performance in the 7 games that they've played. And for my first video, I'll be starting off with a team that has pleasantly surprised me and a lot of other people in the way that they've gone in this tournament, and that is RCB. So looking down their squad before they'd played a game, I think we were all, looking to see how they'd addressed a kind of an Achilles heel, especially in the last few seasons, and that was their bowling. And again, they didn't go overboard with this. They bought a few players, but, the makeup of the team still was the same. And I'm saying this because after Kane Richardson pulled out of the tournament, we saw their first game against the Sunrisers, and it looked like they would have the same problems that they did last season. I mean, Steyn not being the bowler that he was, and Umesh Yadav continuing to give runs. And they persisted with the Steyn and Umesh Yadav combination for the first 2 games, and then they both got dropped for the third. The reason why they could be dropped, or what allowed them to be dropped, was because of, I feel, something that I mentioned in my previous video, when I was talking about Josh Hazlewood's inclusion in the Chennai side. And that's the fact that in these conditions, you can get away with having a constant control over the innings when you're bowling. And let's look at Delhi's innings in that game. So this is match 7. They were 94 without loss in 11 overs. And in the end, they only managed to get 175 for 3. And from the 11th over to the 20th over, I used this phrase in my last video, so it was a relatively uniform progression, and Delhi they couldn't really accelerate how they would have liked. So RCB managed to win their 3rd game against Mumbai, and I thought this was a great win because, I thought it was a statement win actually, because it's against a title contender. I mean, I think that Mumbai and Delhi, as far as the final is concerned, it's going to have to take something special for it to not be a clash between these 2 teams. I mean, I think that they're way above the level of any other team in this tournament. And I would say they are the standard of 2 international teams. And it's just that, especially considering that Mumbai scored 89 runs off the last 5 overs and got the game to a super over from an unwinnable position, a seemingly unwinnable position. They got it to a place where they were just within touching distance. And even then, when the momentum was with Mumbai, Navdeep Saini bowled a brilliant over that meant RCB only had to score, I think, 8 runs in the final over, and they did that easily. And I think that out of all their 5 wins, this win would have been the one that would have given them the most confidence. And coming back to Udana, so I think that if this tournament was played entirely in India, would they have even considered getting Udana on the team, or would they have been able to? No, they wouldn't have, because in faster tracks, consistently faster tracks, someone bowling cutters, and when the boundaries aren't exactly that big, it's just asking for trouble. And so this just shows that they're actually very lucky that the tournament got shifted to the UAE, because considering, if this tournament had been played in India, it would have just highlighted the bad recruitment from RCB. So after a disappointing start to the tournament where Virat Kohli only managed to score 18 runs in his first 3 innings and hadn't scored a boundary in open play because he'd only scored 1 in the super over. After the super over, and I think we could all see how well he played in that super over with both the shots of Jasprit Bumrah, the pull shot and the bottom hand flick through the square leg region. I think both of those shots were through square leg. So after the super over, Virat Kohli has scored runs in every game that he's played, with his lowest score being 33 not out in his most recent game against the Kolkata Knight Riders. He scored 72 not out on, a tricky track to bat on in a total that, alright, 154, but it could go either way, knowing that Abu Dhabi is probably the slowest out of all the 3 grounds in this tournament. And yeah, he's been brilliant. I mean, the next game after that, he scored 43 against Delhi. I mean, okay, the strike rate wasn't the greatest, but then everyone else just kept on getting out around him. And so when the rate was getting that high, he had to go for it, and then he got out. And against CSK, I thought, excluding Tewatia's just legendary innings, especially the way he turned it around, I thought this innings was the best innings in the tournament, the 90 or 52 not out. I mean, especially the fact that he only hit 40 of his 90 runs in boundaries, and he ran 4 consecutive 2s in the last over of Dwayne Bravo. And it just shows how much of an athlete he is, how much he works on his game, his just desire to score runs. And yeah, I think that I honestly didn't expect Virat Kohli to be this influential in this tournament. And I'm saying this because he's usually, apart from 2016, he's usually averaged around that 450s a season mark. And I mean, so I thought the 50s were going to be more spread out. Whereas here, I mean, you see against Delhi, he scored 43. So if he had got that to 50, and then he scored 72 not out against Rajasthan Royals, and then he scored 90 not out against CSK, so that had been 350s already. And this isn't doubting him as a player. I'm just saying that in the IPL, you could kind of see the gears aren't exactly working like they would be for internationals, and it's the same for Rohit Sharma nowadays. And yeah, I mean, I don't mind this because, look, they both play brilliantly internationally, but it's just a thing that it especially highlights the fact that other people have to contribute. And AB de Villiers has done exactly that. I mean, the 350s that he scored, and even the 28 he scored against Kings 11 before he got out. I mean, he seems in brilliant form. And I mean that I talked about CSK having older players and the fact that it's a bit drab and stale. But you look at AB de Villiers, I mean, how he manages to just prepare himself for these kind of tournaments, just execute. I mean, he could still play international cricket right now with the way he's playing. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, for me, he's immune from pretty much everything I said, and a few other individuals, but he especially is immune from everything I said about 35 and over players. Another thing on Virat Kohli and AB de Villiers, both obviously 2 of the best ever to play the game, and they both go about their business differently. So you look at Virat Kohli against Chennai, his 90 or 52, and it's that he just used his skill to manipulate the situation, as he does for any situation, into his favour. And we even saw that he only hit 40 out of his 90 runs in boundaries, meaning that he would have to run 50 runs out of his 90 in hot and humid conditions. I mean, look at the fitness levels he'd have to even think about doing that. And that's why, in my view, he's the best athlete in the world. And it's just, I've honestly never seen anyone just prospering so much in situations that are just not favourable to them. I think it's required in this sport, but it's a hard thing to achieve. I mean, it's easier said than done. And the fact that he does it so often is just brilliant. I mean, I don't really know what I could really say to that, to be honest. And then there's AB de Villiers, who I'm going to take the most recent innings that he played against KKR. So Virat Kohli was hitting the slower balls that KKR bowled on the front foot. And so even though the balls went to the boundary, the fielders were able to cut them off. And in the end, he only managed to get 1 boundary. in his innings. But AB de Villiers was staying on the back foot, waiting on the slow balls and just hitting them, and he hit 2 into the road and one of them actually stopped the traffic. And I think that if you compare both these players, you look at someone in Virat Kohli who plays the situation, and then you look at someone like AB de Villiers who doesn't need to play the situation, because when he gets going, he does these superhuman things. It's like he's batting on a different planet to everyone else. And he just uses his talent, really. He just has something in him that he doesn't need to think about the situation, because he just knows how to approach everything. And, you know, some of the sixes that he was, especially the shot he hit off on Andre Russell. So Andre Russell switched to around the wicket so that he could take the ball across AB de Villiers and bowl a Yorker. And he did do that. He bowled a very good one. Yeah, AB de Villiers somehow manages to get the ball for 4. And it's just like, he just does it so easily. Both these players do things so easily. And that's why these two players who prosper in very different ways, but are two of the greatest ever to hold a bat, playing in the same team. I mean, it's one of the reasons why the IPL is such a great league. There have been other performers for RCB in Devdutt Padikkal, Yuzvendra Chahal, and also Washington Sundar. I mean, with Devdutt Padikkal, he scored 350 so far. And like Virat Kohli said after the game against Rajasthan Royals, he doesn't really seem to be taking any risks. And it just seems like a very natural, free-flowing batsman. And I hope that he can build on this, because by what I've seen so far and what we've all seen, he seems like a very good player. Yuzvendra Chahal, year on year, he just always seems to bowl the crucial overs for RCB and get wickets. And I mean, especially even bowling in Bangalore and a relatively flat track. I mean, he leads the bowling attack, and he's led a bowling attack that's basically had no one else apart from him as a real standout name or a standout performer even. And the fact that he's been doing so well after over such a long period of time is just really great to see. And Washington Sundar, after his season in 2017, he definitely wouldn't have wanted to have the 2018 and 2019 that he had, because in 2018 he kind of struggled, and in 2019 he was also not really getting much game time. But in 2020 he's back to, prospering, bowling the power play overs and strangling the opposition in conditions where, you can do that. And I think that with this bowling attack in these conditions, RCB can look to win this season and the next season, if the next season will also be played in the UAE. So that's RCB, a team that has been very good this season, and I hope that they can continue. And even though I support Chennai, part of me still wants RCB to win the IPL this year. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please also share this video with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?